Good morning. On Friday, Governor Ned Lamont unveiled a new initiative to help build up the economies at the city and town level across the state. It's called CT 2035. The governor is joining us this morning to talk more about it. Governor, thank you for being with us once again. Every reference to this, it's got the little pound sign, the little hashtag. So I'm thinking you're trying to get a social media thing going here with your new proposal. Tell us what it is.
We want to be just like you, Eric. You're CT 23. We're talking about CT 35. I'll tell you what it is. What is this state going to look like in 2035? Everybody knows about speeding up the rail and something about rail stations, something about housing. And what we're trying to do is show people what the state's going to look like. You know, do you realize, Eric, that our cities were probably 30% bigger going back a generation or two? We're going to be slowly filling in those parking lots and those empty commercial buildings and adding more housing there and bringing our cities back to life. And it's already begun. We've built more multifamily housing the last few years than we have in many a year. And it's feeding on the fact that we have tens of thousands of folks moving into our state now. Moving vans turned around. They're coming into Connecticut. What's our state going to look like? How are we going to make it happen?
So we're talking about $60 million in money. The Municipal Redevelopment Authority will be handling this. What towns and cities are eligible to apply? How does it work? And how will it kind of all sort out in the end?
So this is locally directed, locally controlled. You tell us where you want the housing to go. You tell us where you'd like it to be. You tell us how it could be zoned. Is it 2 stories next to the train station, over the parking lot? And we've doubled the amount of money we're investing, you know, with a little higher interest rates right now, doing everything we can to help our developers get over the top so you can get it built right in your town. And that's everything from a big city to a small town. It's up to you.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you. You've talked a lot just already in our couple minutes here about transit-oriented in cities. If I'm watching this morning from Franklin or from Goshen and I say, well, there's not a lot of transit here, Governor, is my town still eligible?
Oh, absolutely. We're going to have a lot of micro transit and buses or vans on demand to help people get around in more rural areas. And by the way, Franklin and Goshen, we're going to be buying and preserving an awful lot of farmland and open space so people have an idea of what this state's going to look like, not just in our vibrant urban centers, but also our rural towns. Keep that green, keep that accessible to people.
You mentioned the moving vans turning around in your press release talking about this CT 2035. You trumpeted that nearly 60,000 new residents have moved into our state during your time in office. Obviously, you want to have more people here. That's a good thing in general. But what do you see? Do you see a motivating factor behind that switch?
A couple of years ago, we thought maybe it was related to COVID since we got our schools open and people didn't want to be in an elevator. But I think it's now 2-3 years later, the numbers are picking up. They're coming from New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts. Our neighboring states are losing population. We're gaining. I think partly it's the change in lifestyle. You don't have to be in that office 5 days a week. So maybe being out here in a suburban way or one of our urban centers is a pretty nice fit.
Another thing you trumpeted in that press release were some of the programs that have passed, things like baby bonds, debt-free community college, the time-to-own program. Most of my time I do real estate closings as a lawyer, and I can tell you people who get that program just can't talk enough about it. So is there a theme for those kind of programs and initiatives where they're all kind of aiming to do the same thing?
Yeah, I want this to be a state of opportunity. That means just not we're going to provide you free job training and get you a guaranteed job at the backside of that. But you start making a little bit of money, we're going to help you with a down payment. That's what time to own is. So you don't have to be a renter. When you own in your community or vested in the community, I think that's really good for community and bringing it to life.
We already had the Chief Marketing Officer, Anthony, on the show a few weeks ago talking about the Make It Here campaign and sort of the effort to not just look at marketing it as a tourist destination, but actually as a place where you could live and work and play. And when he was here, we talked about some statistics that he brought to us. Only 50% of people surveyed said they were proud to live in Connecticut, and only 21% said they would recommend it to someone else. So we've talked a lot about successes and about how you want to move forward in 2035, but do those numbers alarm you?
That's part of what Anthony's campaign is about. The good news is people said they love living here. They said it's a great place to be, good place to play. They weren't as sure about working here. So part of what we're trying to do with the Make It Here is say, look, This is one of the most entrepreneurial, innovative, vibrant economies there is. We are one of the fastest growing last year. A lot of tech, a lot of fintech, a lot of life sciences, a lot of up and coming new professions, as well as thousands of jobs unfilled where we can guarantee you a job. Good place for you to be.
All right, a lot that you're doing to sell this state to other people. I want to ask you about some of the other newsworthy topics, Governor. A new commissioner announced over the past week, Ronell Higgins, at Department of Public Safety Commissioner. Tell our viewers why they should care about that selection. I know there's been a lot of controversy, particularly involving the state police lately.
I just thought it was a good time to have a fresh start at the state police, given some of the questions about the ticketing. Ronell is amazing. He ran public safety for Yale University. And last week, we got together with university presidents and the public safety folks because of the rising nature of sort of the hate speech, potential hate crimes on our college campuses. You've heard about that, doing what we can to get ahead of that and make sure it doesn't happen in Connecticut.
Another big issue that's been in the headlines for sure is electric vehicles and the move to try to switch to electric vehicles only being sold at some point in the future. A lot of uproar. The governor's trying to take our gas cars away. This is a terrible idea, particularly from Republicans in our state and Republican leadership. What's your response if someone comes up to you, sees you in the grocery store and says, Governor, don't take my car away? Or what's your plan? What are you telling them?
Well, first of all, remember it was passed unanimously by Republicans and Democrats 20 years ago. It was passed again on a bipartisan basis 1 or 2 years ago. So we have been asked to put regulations in front of the Regulatory Review Committee. I think it makes sense. This is 11 years out. We have tripled the number of EVs sold just in the last few years. The price of EVs is going down. With 2035 as a date out there, we're doing this along with about half the population of the United States. That tells GM and Ford they're going to keep going with EVs, have more charging stations in place. People can, invest accordingly.
And a lot of people have raised concerns about the infrastructure, whether or not they care about taking gas cars away, but can the infrastructure support it? Are your folks looking at that? Is that a concern that there just isn't enough electricity? Isn't enough for charging stations, things like that, the infrastructure to keep that going?
We have. We've added, many hundreds of charging stations in the last few years. We're going to be tripling down on that. We have that pretty well planned out. We can give anybody the information they need going forward there. I just think, look, transportation is the last place where you have a lot of air quality particulates, asthma-related problems coming out of there. We're doing this on a prudent basis over the next 11 years. And if we're having a hard time making that plan, we have a chance to pull back. Let's not pull back now.
Not a lot of time left, but I want to get to two more topics of car taxes. So many people get that bill in July, and it's the bane of their existence. Anything coming down the pike on changing that? I know it's a complicated thing to switch out of.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's about $1 billion that the municipalities collect via car taxes. Everybody hates the car tax. I hear that wherever I go. The legislature has a committee that's looking into how do we replace that lost revenue for the municipalities. We've given them a couple of ideas. I hope we get something across the finish line.
And the last thing I want to ask you about, we're coming into a new budget year coming up here in a few weeks. And people have raised concern, particularly about higher education. We heard it when your budget was first put out a year ago. And both UConn and the community colleges talking about it, $140 million shortfall. Are you concerned about this?
Well, let's put it this way. The state, the taxpayers are giving UConn and Connecticut State the biggest grants ever in our history. What they're complaining about a little bit is they got extra money during COVID because the schools were closed down and we wanted to pay all the faculty to keep things going. That federal money is gone, but our state contribution continues to go up. I hope they're resourceful and innovative in making sure they can live within the means we got up there. We have one of the greatest university systems in the world. I'm not going to do anything to compromise that, but they got to learn to live within their means as well.
All right, well, something tells me we're going to talk more about that. You said at the beginning, CT 35, you want to be just like us. Let me just give you a suggestion. I made them put my name in the graphics, Governor. So when you put the graphic together, have Ned Lamont right in there. It's a lot harder for them to get rid of you.
Good advice. I think it's worked for you.
Yeah, see, it's right there. It's hard for them to fire me. We appreciate you being with us, Governor Ned Lamont. We'll have you back here on, again, CT 23 with Eric Parker. Thanks, Governor.